How's it going? Guess what? We are 2.5 weeks removed from the Acolyte season finale. So what are we going to do today? Are we going to talk about Skeleton Crew? Not really. No, not at all. At the beginning of this, we started off with a quote from Obi-Wan Kenobi about how our different truths depend on a certain point of view. And essentially, car accident theory as a witness. Whenever we witness a car accident, we give our report of that car accident. Our version goes to the police, and they determine what in fact really is the truth. Years ago, George Lucas comes out and, talking about Luke Skywalker and how he put parts of him into Luke. And more or less, Luke was George Lucas. Well, now we had this series here, The Acolyte. And written by Lesley Headland. Before it came out, she pretty much came out and said this was her $186 million therapy session. It was a representation of a relationship between her and her sister. So what I want to do today is not look at this series from a Star Wars fan's perspective. I want to remove myself as a Star Wars fan and look at this from a psychological or a philosophical point of view. And in doing so, I'm going to need your help. And help, I mean, leave your opinion down below in the comments. Also, of course, make sure you're smashing the like button, sharing this, and if you're not already subscribed, make sure you subscribe. Because every little bit of interaction helps, especially with a small growing channel. Because what that does, it helps me in the algorithm. And I'm sure you've heard it plenty of times before from other YouTube talking heads. And it's true. The more you guys interact, the further it pushes me up into the algorithm, and it puts me into like the recommended viewing of those that just randomly pop onto YouTube and don't sign into an account. So I pop up right there. Hey, recommended view. Hey, watch this guy. He's got something fun to say, or he's got something political to say. That's what it does. It really does work. Because remember, you are responsible for your own algorithms. Now, the psychology of the Acolyte. What's it mean? And how does Osha and May represent the relationship between Lesley Headland and her sister? Well, today, when I woke up, I was doing my regular morning scrolls through the Googles and the Instagrams and the face of books or something like that. And I come across this article. And I was really surprised with it. It was a very unique point of view that nobody has covered. And I'm surprised no one's even mentioned this article anywhere. Of course, I can see why, because I'll be honest with you, I had no idea, or I've never even heard of this website. It is called Report Ultra, and they do a bunch of entertainment news and behind-the-scenes opinions of various entertainment platforms. So this particular article, of course, is about The Acolyte. as the headline says, Star Wars doesn't represent gay audience. It actually villainizes gay audience in The Acolyte. When I saw this, I was like, I got to know what this thing says. So I do. I go through the article. It touches on all the stuff that we've heard before, how divisive the series was, how it breaks canon, and how Lesley Headland herself says it's the gayest Star Wars yet. But yet, it gives a perspective on Mother Anastasia and the Coven of Witches. Them being evil. In fact, mainstream media for this whole series, the Acolyte series, tried to paint that the Jedi were the bad guys. Where in fact that this article points out that the Coven of Witches, the space lesbians, were no better than the Jedi in this point. But they did leave something out. They left out the Sith. We have 3 factions involved in this series. You have the lesbian space witches, you have the Jedi, and of course you have the Sith. Now, if we go back to the beginning of the series and we first learn of Osha and May. Osha and May talk about how they are, through their poem, they are one and the same. You are me and I am you. Okay? Now, this makes Lesley Headland, Osha, and May. And they live in a society. Now, they grew in this society for 10 years. They grew up in this society. So they were educated a certain way. They have certain customs, a certain way of life. Now, May bought into that society and was fully invested in that society. But Osha was not. Osha was a very independent girl. She wanted adventure, travel the stars, become a Jedi. She wanted to be her own person. Now you have this other faction, Jedi. Keepers of the Peace. Travel the galaxy to look for Force-sensitive children and to increase their ranks by bringing them in and educating them, showing them the ways of the Force, and of course, to become a peacekeeper. Others may look at the Jedi as a private army for the Republic, or the Senate, or a police force controlled by the Republic. Who are they? We really find out who the Jedi are in this series. Now, like in all societies, there are politics, good and bad. The Jedi have their politics, their education. The Coven of Witches have their society, their education, their own politics, their own order. Now we're leaving out one group. We're leaving out the Sith. Now, both of us, that's right, both of us, the other person that's actually watching this, understands that the Sith think inward, only about themselves. And for 1,000 years, the Sith have been extinct. But in fact, we know that they have not. They've been hiding in the shadows, staying away from the Jedi, building their power based on the rule of 2. The master to hold the power, the apprentice to crave it. Through time, the apprentice grows in knowledge, grows in power. And an only way to become the master must defeat the master himself. Now here, in this series, they portray the acolytes, or they portray the Sith as being individualists. They are not Jedi. They are not part of this coven. They're just independent people. They want to practice their religion their own way. They want to wield their power their own way. Not by the tenets of the Jedi or the tenets of this coven or any other religion. They want to be their own people. So on the surface, you look at the Sith. Pretty cool, huh? Not only do you get to be an individual, you get cookies. Now let's go back to Osha and May. In this coven. Now, mind you, Osha and May are basically the representation of Lesley Headland. They are both the same person, but split into two. So essentially, Osha and May are the different sides of Lesley Headland. And I believe the different societies are what represent her family. Now, Osha and May are born into one family. May wants to be a part of it. A portion of Lesley Headland wants to be part of this family, what she is born into. But yet a part of her deep down knows that she doesn't fit in. And she goes off and she's looking for a new place. A place that she can be accepted. A place where she can be educated, trained, have a life that she can enjoy. So part of her not being happy with her own family, she seeks out another. And it is the Jedi. And as part of the Jedi, they seek her out as well. So as these Jedi come to their planet, they offer Osha and May, you're both willing to come with us. You're welcome to join the Jedi. We will train you, educate you, feed you, and offer you a better way of life. Better than the life that you have at home. May, part of Lesley, is like, no, I want no part of that because this is my family. This is where I belong. Now with Osha, she sought adventure. She wanted to travel the stars, see all the galaxies, to become a Jedi, to be a bringer of peace. The Jedi offered her a place at their side. At one point, the Jedi asked the Coven, we would like to test your children to see if they hold the skills and the power to become Jedi. One of the children refused and lies. So she wouldn't have to leave her society. Osha passes the test and tells the truth because she's brave and she's willing to try something new, something that is outside of her comfort zone. Because she is still trying to discover who she is as a person. Now that is a part of Lesley. It is her bravery that is setting her out on an adventure, but part of her is keeping her at home. Now what happens is there is conflict. We all are familiar with how it went in the series where the Jedi come to get the children, to take them back to training. Then there is a conflict between the Coven and the Jedi. And just like in real life, you have the education and the upbringing and culture of one society butting heads with another society that is educated and brought up in a different way as well. And it is common for them to have conflict. And in that conflict, unfortunately, one side was destroyed. And in doing so, there are always witnesses. And one of the children, one of the personalities of Lesley, witnesses the atrocities the Jedi supposedly had made upon the Coven. But when you look at it from an outsider's point of view, the Coven of Witches instigated the conflict. The Jedi simply defended themselves. But based on the point of view of the children and where those children were, determine how these each societies are actually viewed as either enemy or hero. Osha, not knowing what had happened at the beginning, looked at the Jedi as heroes. May, accepting the teachings of her coven in how they had their points of view of the Jedi, looked at the Jedi as enemies. And of course, there's always that third party. The one that's way off in the back that want to see those societies conflict. Because what they can do is they could step in and pick from the rubble and get the gems that they want. Now, Lesley, being Osha and May, is going through a conflict. to be part of what she considers normal society, or to be part of the society out here, what everyone else sees as normal. What does she do? She does what anyone would do. She leaves the other society that she feels she doesn't fit. She steps away and looks inward, making her the prime target for a Sith, being an individual. So now the Sith step in and offer independence, self-awareness. Be you. Be who you want to be. Be who you were meant to be at the expense of the other society. And what happens? Osha is revealed to the truth of what happened on the day that the Jedi and her coven were in conflict. And it changes her point of view of the Jedi and her coven. It more or less, she excommunicates herself from both societies to look for some place where she can be who she wants to be. And that is with the Sith. Because they offer her the individuality, the cookies, and of course, she can wield the power that she possesses her way. Not based on the tenets of either the Jedi, the Coven, or any other religion or society. But we know, on the surface, the Sith look like the good guy, just for the simple fact that they promote individuality, in this case. But deep down, we all know that the Sith only think about themselves. They think inwardly. And there is only two: the master who possesses the power and the apprentice who craves it. Now think about this. She is Osha and May. May, at the end of the series, is taken by the normal society, the Jedi. And what happens? She's put in a prison because her mind is wiped. She doesn't remember the Sith. She doesn't remember killing people. She is just literally a blank slate. She is just a body taking up space in a prison cell. Her own prison cell. The one she created. And that is what Lesley did to her other half, who was part of her family, who was part of her society, her normal society, her birth society. She wiped her mind of it and locked her away so that her other half could be what she wanted to be, the Sith. And of course, all Sith have a master. And Lesley Headland's master, of course, we all know, Harvey Weinstein. And the only way that Lesley is going to become the master is if she defeats Harvey. And Harvey has been defeated. So now Lesley Headland looks at herself as the Sith master. And if you look back at all of her other promotions for this, when the media would ask her, well, what side are you, Jedi or Sith? She would always say Sith. So if you look at the show from a psychological point of view or a philosophical point of view, she claims to be Sith. Well, in fact, because she is. She shows you in her story. Each part of her, she locked away her, what you would say, her paternal instincts and paternal family, to lock away them into a prison, to always be forgotten. To give in to her individuality, to think inwardly and about herself. Not about the community here, not about her own community, but the individual. On the surface, the Sith look good because of individuality. But deep down, we know what the Sith stand for. Peace is a lie. Through passion, I gain strength. Through strength, I gain power. Through power, I gain victory. Through victory, my chains are broken. That is what a Sith is. That is how she views herself. She is about herself. And she was telling every one of us all about it. And that took me, 25 minutes to do? And I didn't get a damn thing out of it. She owes me $186 million. Good night.